Okay, hello and welcome back to hashtag PHvote 2013. This is Rappler's continuing coverage. It is the day after the Philippines' second automated elections, and now we have roughly 52%, a little more than 52%, 52.49% of the votes are coming in. These results that you're going to see, that Josh Villanueva is going to show you, is coming to us from Pope Pius. Our technical staff is there working closely with Comelec. These are coming through the Rappler Mirror server. It's also funneling results to the broadcast networks, ABS-CBN, GMA7, TV5, Solar, and Citizen Watchdog NAMFREL. Let's go to Josh now to take a look at the results and how we can find them. Josh.
If you want to find the results, it's easy. The URL is rappler.com. This is rappler.com. As you can see, our top story right now, half the votes, it's 9-3 for Team PNoy. Scroll up, it looks like the rappler.com site. The only thing that's different actually is there's this nav bar right here under the headline, and this is all you need to jump to any kind of result related to these elections. Let's click on the Senate race. This is what you want to keep tabs of. It's a visual representation of the results, and we have results as of 7:24 a.m. Still in the lead. We've been tracking her. She's been number one since the first wave of results have come in. Grace Poe, 14,339,249 after 52.6% of precincts have reported. Lauren Legarda is second, 13 million. Cheese Escudero and Alan Cayetano racing neck and neck for third and fourth, 12 million apiece. Very, very, very close, Maria. Cheese has 12,407,000. Alan Cayetano has 12,404,000.
Can you take a look at the breakdown of their votes, of Cheese and Alan, and let's see.
So you can actually, let me use my mouse, it's easier. So what I'm doing is I'm hovering over the results. So just hover over the face of Cheese Escudero, and I'll keep my mouse pointer hovering over him, and you can see there's information about him, but you can also drill down and take a look at where he received a majority of his votes. I'll do the same for Alan Cayetano as well. As you'll notice, Alan has received a lot of votes in Region 3, Region 4A, and the National Capital Region. So you can follow the results by just hovering over the faces. Let me complete the top 12 for you. In fifth place, Nancy Binay, Sunny Angara 6th, Bam Aquino 7th, Coco Pimentel 8th, Sunny Trillanes, Cynthia Villar, JV Ejercito, and at number 12, Gringo Honasan with 9,313,000. Of course, we're also tracking number 13th. It's a position nobody wants to be in because you're neither here nor there. He is at 8.9 million, still a reach away from the 12th spot. Maria?
Great. These are the results so far. You've got how many percentage?
52.6% of precincts reporting.
52.6%. That is as of 7:24 this morning. You see that it updates every 10 to 15 minutes as the PCOS machines transmit. Let's take a look back at what's happened over this 90-day campaign period. Rappler's political reporters, following the candidates, look back at the highlights of the senatorial campaigns. Here's the first of our three-part series. It takes a look at the candidates outside the two major parties and their brave and maybe futile fight to go up against big money, big names, and big machinery. Carmela Fonbuena reports.
Senatorial candidate Teddy Casino starts the campaign on a high note. This alternative candidate had a clear plan to defeat the political machineries of Team PNoy and UNA.
Imbis na ang tao ang tatawagin natin para pumunta sa ating rally, tayo po ang pupunta sa taong bayan, sa mga palengke, sa mga plaza, sa mga eskwelahan, sa mga komunidad. Magpapaliwanag tayo, mangangampanya tayo, at hihimukin natin sila na sumama sa ating takbo.
In the last 3 months, he traveled the country to campaign. He flew to Hong Kong to court OFW votes and even got big names to support him. But surveys are discouraging. He ranks 24th out of 33 names, getting only 9% of the voters. It is a long shot. The alternative candidates who are able to defeat Team PNoy and Una candidates are celebrated Mayor Edward Hagedorn of world-famous Puerto Princesa, 16% of voters, and Evangelist Eddie Villanueva, 15% of voters. It may have been a good move to campaign together. The two Eddies are ranking just below Team PNoy candidate Jambi Madrigal and above Una candidates Ernesto Maceda, Mitos Magsaysay, and Tingting Cojuangco.
My calculation on the warm reception of our friends from the local government units, I can easily say that we might be able to make it in the top 8. Yung mga local officials na hindi pa kumikilos noon are starting to move now.
But Hagedorn ranks 19th. Villanueva ranks 20th. A long way to go to Magic 12. Alternative candidates have campaigned hard, going around the country and attending senatorial debates. A checklist by the University of the Philippines also shows they had better attendance in debates than most Team PNoy and Una candidates. But who listens to the debates? Surveys also show some of these candidates with perfect debate attendance are familiar to only 10% of the voters, much less vote for them. Even Ricardo Penson, who has the money for TV ads, is familiar to only 11% of voters, and only 1 to 2% said they will vote for him. Some of the alternative candidates have impressive track records too. Why can't they break through? Pulse Asia's Ana Tabunda explains, the average Filipino voter can handle only 2 slates.
It's really because they can handle all the information about only so many candidates. They really can't even handle all 24. That's why they need something, I'm talking about the average voter. That's why they need something like, this slate is identified with this leader. This slate is identified with this leader.
In a country where poverty is widespread, people spend their time thinking, how can they put food on the table? They hardly have time left for other matters. Carmela Fonbuena, Rappler, Manila.
For the second part of our campaign series, we look at administration Team PNoy and the strategy behind the team which carries the name of the president. Natashya Gutierrez reports.
Ang matuwid, marami ang gustong sumali.
No matter the party, what matters is the united stance towards Tuwid na Daan, or the straight path. This was the message of President Benigno Aquino III since day one. It all starts in historic Club Filipino, the same place Aquino announced his presidential bid in 2009. In October 2012, Aquino announces his slate, a rainbow coalition of former political rivals and 5 parties. The slate consists of Senators Antonio Trillanes, Alan Peter Cayetano, Lauren Legarda, Chis Escudero, and Coco Pimentel. Former party list Representative Risa Hontiveros, Aurora Representative Sonny Angara, former Census Chief Grace Poe, former Las Piñas Representative Cynthia Villar, former Senators June Magsaysay and Jambi Madrigal, and social entrepreneur Bam Aquino. Poe, Legarda, and Escudero are also adopted as guest candidates by the opposition United Nationalist Alliance, or UNA. 4 months later, Aquino kickstarts the campaign period in Plaza Miranda. He says a vote for Team PNoy is a vote for his reforms.
Magpapatuloy ba ang mapayapat mabungang biyahe natin sa Tuwid na Daan? O isusuko na lamang natin ang lahat ng ating tagumpay sa mga nagnanais tayong iligaw sa masukal na ruta ng katiwalian? Sa kamay ng ilang nagpalit nga ng kulay ng baro, pero ang budi naman ay nakasampay pa rin sa dating baluktot na kalakaran.
The team doesn't waste any time. It campaigns in Luzon's vote-rich provinces, Batangas, Laguna, and Cavite on the first week. The following week, the coalition hits the Visayas. It is the same week UNA drops Escudero, Poe, and Legarda as guest candidates, after the 3 failed to show up in UNA's sorties. But attendance is a problem even for the president's team. When the slate campaigns in Mindanao by the 3rd week, some rallies have more proxies than actual candidates. Campaign manager Franklin Derlon admits it is a waste.
As we go along, we learn from these lessons. I will relate to them what happened here about the very warm reception of the youth and the fact that they missed it. So I am only the campaign manager. I cannot bring the horse to the river, to the water.
But Derlon isn't too concerned, because that same week, the first social weather station survey since the start of the campaign season reveals 9 Team PNoy candidates on the top 12 and only 3 for Una. It is an improvement from just 7 administration bets the month before. But not everyone is happy with the results. Pimentel, ranked 5 to 6, starts facing attacks from Miguel Zubiri of Una, who is hanging on at 11 to 12th place. Both Mindanaoans and longtime bitter rivals, they engage in mudslinging. In the most brutal personal attack of the campaign yet, Zubiri accuses Pimentel of beating up his estranged wife. The word war ends after Pimentel threatens to sue.
Well, tapos na po yung personal attack. Sana hindi na po, sana people have learned their lessons na there are some topics na off-limits na sa kampanya. And ito basic na basic. Pag-imbento ng charge, off-limits na off-limits po yan. I mean, bawal na bawal po yan. Kung mag-imbento ka ng personal attack pa, so mas grabe, that's parang double technical foul, you're out of the game.
Pimentel is not the only one forced to defend himself. Senator Cheese Escudero also finds himself in the spotlight when the parents of his actress girlfriend Heart Evangelista hold a press conference and accuse the re-electionist of being arrogant and an alcoholic.
Lahat ng ito, lahat ng ginawa at sinabi nila, lahat ng gagawin pa nila o sasabihin pa nila, iisa lamang naman ang dahilan, rason at punot dulo nang galing mismo naman sa kanila. Gusto nila kaming paghiwalayin.
Escudero, a first to third placer, drops in surveys after the controversy. His numbers in an April SWS survey show him at 5th place. But it is top-notcher Lauren Legarda who finds herself the brunt of relentless attacks that hit her integrity. Less than 2 weeks before Election Day, questions about her statements of assets, liabilities, and net worth surface. Legarda cries black propaganda, but does not explain cost and ownership discrepancies on her Sal ends regarding a posh New York City apartment she owns. Rumors fly Senator Alan Peter Cayetano, a fellow Team PNoy bet who's number 2 in surveys, is behind the smear campaign. But the rumor dies a natural death, and the source of the expose remains a mystery. By the home stretch, bets enlist celebrity endorsers in a last-ditch effort to gain voters.
Para sa akin, magsaysay.
Popular actor Richard Yap pushes for magsaysay.
Si Kuya Sani Angara.
Matinee idol Coco Martin rallies with Angara. Even presidential sister and controversial actress Chris Aquino endorses select bets from the slate.
Antonio Trillanes.
But the most faithful endorser is still President Aquino. Throughout the campaign, Aquino accompanies his bets and sorties, endorsing them in every corner of the country. He is seen on the campaign trail even as the Saba standoff ends in violence. Aquino also makes it to Maguindanao, the first time a president has ever visited Buluan City. All this because the Liberal Party believes 2013 is the referendum for his leadership. Going into D-Day, surveys predict a 9-3 victory in favor of Team PNoy. But analysts say it's a tight race. Were voters convinced of the president's message and his bet's promises to follow a straight and narrow path? Come May 13, that's for the people to decide. Natashya Gutierrez, Rappler, Manila.
For the third part of our campaign series, we look at the opposition, its 3 big guns, and its ambiguity in the face of rivals with a very popular champion. How well did the opposition differentiate itself from the administration? Ayee Macaraig reports.
Marami pa rin ang nagugutom. Marami pa rin ang walang trabaho. Marami pa rin ang patuloy na naghihirap.
Vice President Jejo Marbinay's United Nationalist Alliance starts with a bang, firing shots at the administration in its opening salvo in Cebu.
Pinapaasa tayo ng mga leader natin. Ang problema natin, ang leader natin.
Even before its proclamation rally, Una lives up to its name, beating the Liberal Party and first organizing its senatorial slate. Despite the head start, Una faces problems in completing its ticket, with the ruling party drawing most re-electionists and popular candidates. Senator Coco Pimentel also bolts the alliance over the inclusion of the man he accuses of cheating him, resigned Senator Mig Zubiri. With businessman Joey De Venecia backing out, Binay is forced to field a surprise candidate with a built-in advantage.
She is my daughter. Diba? Binay is associated sa good public service. Eldest daughter ko pa ito.
Una's
slate is an odd mix of ex-rivals turned allies and veteran lawmakers and political neophytes. The coalition's big guns are its so-called Three Kings, Binay, former President Joseph Estrada, and Senate President Juan Ponce Enrile. Together, the group presents itself as the so-called constructive opposition.
Ang ibig sabihin ng mga liberal ngayon ay gusto na lang talian ang ilong ng Senado na parang isang kalabaw. Paninindigan ko po ang independensya ng Senado kahit na buhay ko pa ay bubuhos ko para magiging malaya ang Senado ninyo.
Sa una, while its first to air ads, Una soon stops filling the airwaves. Initially part of the ticket, Senators Loren Legarda, Francis Escudero, and Grace Poe also snubbed the alliance's events, forcing Una to junk the three common candidates. Una campaign manager Toby Tiangco says the lack of funds is a big problem.
Diba? Ibig sabihin, even if it's the right message, if you hear it only once every 3 days on TV, how do you remember it?
But it's not just resources that's a challenge. Observers say Una's Three Kings are not consistent in endorsing their candidates compared to President Aquino, who's tirelessly campaigned for Team PNoy. Binay soon focuses on foreign trips, while Estrada is running for Manila mayor. Enrile keeps a low profile because of an eye problem and the fallout from the Senate fund controversy.
Sa akin po, ang grado po ng Aquino administration ay 6.
Local governments nahihirapan. Bakit walang pondo?
The country is not working, my dear.
Una candidates go on criticizing the administration, but Aquino and his bets remain popular, while Una lags behind in surveys. Still, Binay's coalition is banking on his campaign philosophy. All politics is local. Unlike Team PNoy, Una did not partner with other parties to avoid conflicts at the local level.
Sa taas parang mukhang makikinabang yung mga nasa taas, ano? But down the ground, maraming imperfections. Because siyempre, kung hindi maayos yung coalition, no? Yung coalitions ng LP, then may tapon yan sa una.
The man eyeing the presidency in 2016 still believes his alliance can muster at least 4 senators. Constructive opposition, loyal opposition, new opposition. With no clear difference, analysts say Una comes out with a weak message. In one of the tightest senatorial races in recent history, the lack of distinction between parties and candidates makes for an election where personalities and name recall rule the game more than ever. Ayee Macaraig, Rappler.
Well, you've gone back to take a look at the last 90 days of the campaign rallies and how each, the Team PNoy, Una, and the independents have run their campaigns. Now we've got the results in front of us. Let's go to Rappler's managing editor, Glenda Gloria. She is looking at exactly how Team PNoy is doing. Glenda, tell us, how is Team PNoy doing in the vote-rich provinces?
PNoy bets are trouncing their rivals in the 10 most vote-rich provinces based on the results from the Rappler Mirror server. Combined, Maria, these provinces have 16 million registered voters, or a third of the country's 50 million registered voters. So it's no surprise that you're seeing at least 9 bets in the Magic 12. 10 of Team PNoy candidates actually won big in Cebu and Negros Occidental. Partial and unofficial results from the server also show that Team PNoy bets were occupying 8 to 9 spots in the provinces of Cavite, Bulacan, Nueva Ecija, Laguna, Rizal, Pangasinan, Batangas, and Davao del Sur. The early frontrunners, Grace Poe and Loren Legarda and Francis Escudero, were the highest vote getters in Cavite, Laguna, Batangas, and Rizal. This despite the local candidates in this area of Una. For example, in Laguna, you have the governor and re-electionist E.R. Ejercito, who is part of Una, and he campaigned very strongly for the Una candidates in his province. Ejercito is also running against LP member Edgar San Luis. But despite this, Team PNoy showed a very good showing in Laguna and Cavite. Cebu province, which has been touted as the opposition bailiwick, if you remember,
Yes.
Una held its proclamation rally there, is an Aquino country.
Wow.
They held their proclamation there, Una, but Cebu failed to deliver for Una, as only two of its bets, Nancy Binay and Juan Subiri, broke into the top 12 there based on our latest results. Team PNoy senatorial bet, Alan Peter Cayetano, Bam Aquino, Grace Poe, Lauren Legarda, and Coco Pimentel were occupying the top 5 places in the province. Of course, the Cebu's gubernatorial race also went to the administration. That's Junjun Davide based on the results from, although not official yet. Outside of the NCR, Cebu province has the highest number of registered voters with 2.5 million voters. Aquino and Rojas won in Cebu in 2010, Maria, if you recall, and so this is apparent victory of Team PNoy bets in the province reinforces that Cebu from 2010 has always been an Aquino bailiwick. Among the Una candidates, we have 3 or 4 who are the top 12 vote getters in the 10 most vote-rich provinces. These are Binay, J.V. Ejercito, the son of the former president and now incoming Manila Mayor Joseph Estrada, Gringo Onasan, and trailing them is Richard Gordon. The results of the senatorial race in these provinces reveal very interesting insights as well. For example, in the 4 vote-rich provinces under Region 4, that's Cavite, Batangas, Laguna, and Rizal, these provinces went for Aquino and Binay in 2010 in the presidential race. But for this year, they show that they are more for Aquino than for Binay, except for Batangas, where Team PNoy senatorial bets led by 9-3, Cavite, Laguna, and Rizal gave it 8-4 in favor of Team PNoy.
Interesting. What does this show? I mean, the President Aquino, Team PNoy have long said that they've asked that these midterm elections is a referendum, and these results that you're showing show that that's actually correct, right?
Yes, it is. I think it's a combination of the popularity of the president, the local network, picking the right allies in the certain provinces. For example, in Cebu, if you recall, the Durano family, which is a very powerful clan in the province, went for another candidate in 2010, not President Aquino. And the president knew that this time around he needed the Duranos to ensure the win of Junjun Davide in the province. And that's the homework that they did in Cebu, and that paid off, apparently.
It also doesn't hurt that the country is doing very well right now. But what does this mean for 2016? Everyone has said this is actually the setup also for 2016. What does that look like now?
Well, I think it's too early to tell. They say that this is 3 years. 3 years is a long time in Philippine politics. It's too early to say that because the Binay team lost in Cebu that he won't be able to get those votes in 2016. It's a referendum on Aquino, but it's not very categorically a referendum on Binay. So there are a lot going in Aquino's favor as opposed to the vice president, for example. It was a very nuanced campaign. Una has branded itself as an opposition, but it could only do so much under a very popular government. So 2016, I think, would offer a very different political landscape. A lot of things can happen between now and then.
You know, it's interesting. We were also looking at the solo races where you had candidates that with Team PNoy who were focused on their race. What happened with those?
In the vote, well, some of the one-on-one races saw, for example, quite in Pangasinan. Of course, there are initial reports, and it's hard to say because it's less than 50% of the votes. But emerging as the apparent winner there is the NPC, Amado Espino, who ran against the president's own bet, Nani Braganza. It's too early to say, but based on the trends, Espino could have his final term. But Team PNoy won in Pangasinan as far as the senatorial candidates are concerned. In both, there are other two symbolic races. In Cebu, the president's bet won in the gubernatorial race. But in Manila, as we know, it's also a symbolic race for the president. Correct. Because Alfredo Lim has been not just a political ally but a family friend of the Aquinos. He lost to an UNA leader and the former president.
You've been watching elections for a long time. Any other surprises? Were you surprised by anything in these elections?
Well, Grace po is a surprise to a lot of us. But I think because then Grace is also a new name. An old family name, but she's a new persona. I think she defied some of the stereotype that is always attached to being associated with entertainment. And so Grace Po is a surprise. I think there are a lot of surprises in the one-on-one races, but not so much the results. It's more the decision of this administration to go one-on-one with the incumbents. And the main example of that would be Pangasinan. Going against a coalition ally, the Nationalist People's Coalition, they decided to run against Espino rather than support him and pick another bet.
Fantastic. Okay, that's Glenda Gloria, the Rappler's managing editor, talking about how Team PNoy did in the vote-rich provinces. Ayee Macaraig is in Cebu, the largest number of voters in a province. Ayee, where are you now and what's happening?
Hi, Horia. We're at the Cebu capital now, where the provincial canvass is supposed to take place. We're receiving the results from the municipalities of Cebu, but so far the canvassers have not yet posted the results. So what we know right now is the number of municipalities and component cities that have been able to send their results here. So as of now, there are 15 municipalities out of 51 that were able to send their results. But again, we're still waiting because the actual results have not yet been posted. The canvassers say their system is calibrated in such a way that they will only post the results once a majority of the municipalities have been able to send their results. So again, a long wait still for the official results for the province. But as we know, as you have discussed with Ms. Glenda, we already have the partial unofficial results for the province. So for Cebu province, we have the Liberal Party's Junjun Davide leading in the unofficial count by about 100,000 votes against one Cebu's Pablo John Garcia. So the administration is leading here in Cebu. But other interesting races also that we look at locally, as we discussed how the senatorial bet nationally, how the national candidates fared here, it's also interesting to see the results, the local results in Cebu. So for Cebu City, incumbent Mayor Mike Rama seems to be headed for re-election based on official but partial results. So he is up against the LP and BOP case Congressman Tommy Osmeña. This is widely seen as an upset by local analysts because Osmeña has not lost an election since 1988. And of course, we know that he belongs to the influential Osmeña clan of Cebu. So this is an interesting result for many Cebuanos that Mayor Rama is able to keep his post as city mayor. And the two were actually once allies, but they had a falling out, and they are now each other's worst critics. And the race, the mayoral race for Cebu City was very heated in the 45-day campaign period. Other interesting results, Rama's cousin, the controversial talent manager Annabel Rama, is behind by a huge margin in the congressional race in the 1st District of Cebu City. Her rival, former Congressman Raul Delmar of the LP, is leading with about 130,000 votes, while Annabel Rama just has 35,000 votes as of 7 o'clock this morning. So Annabel Rama is behind by a huge margin, so we will see if she can still eke out a victory, but for now that seems unlikely. But in the 3rd district, even if PJ Garcia is behind in the gubernatorial race, his sister, the suspended Governor Gwen Garcia, is leading in the congressional race in the 3rd district. So she, as of 7 o'clock, she has 85,000 votes against her LP rival with 79,000 votes. But another interesting development is in the 2nd district, their father, the Garcia's father, the old man, Bling Garcia, is actually behind, placing 2nd in partial unofficial results. So in the 2nd district, we might just see a defeat of the old man Garcia if the partial unofficial results will prove true. So in the 6th district, former Tourism Secretary Ace Durano seems headed for a comeback in Congress, as mentioned by Ms. Glenda. He is part of the powerful Durano clan of the 5th district. This is actually a no-brainer already because the two independents who were pitted against him are not that formidable compared, of course, to someone who was part of the cabinet of the Arroyo administration. So Ace Durano seems headed for a victory there. Now, if you look at it from a wider, a bigger perspective, there are 6 congressional districts for Cebu province. Of those 6, the Liberal Party is leading in 3 in the congressional races. So this, as of now, we could say that the LP was able to muster support in at least half of the Cebu province. So that's an interesting development, but still you have Gwen Garcia who is leading in the 3rd district. So if these results, unofficial partial results, will be consistent and will carry through to the end, we might just see one Garcia, at least in the congressional and gubernatorial races, one Garcia out of 3 who will be successful, because as we said, Pablo John Garcia, the brother, and Pabling Garcia, the father, are behind, at least in partial and unofficial results. Maria?
Ayee, you actually covered when Gwen Garcia was padlocked, finally padlocked out of her office last December. Has there been any backlash in that move, or as you've shown in the results, it's 50%, half the seats have already gone to LP. Anything left over from the December moves?
Well, that was one of the campaign issues that the Garcia camp tried to raise. The brother PJ Garcia was saying that it energized their supporters, it energized voters, it gave them an extra boost to campaign for him to be governor. But, well, if we're going to base it on their gubernatorial results for now, that doesn't seem to have translated in the results as of now, in the partial unofficial results. But it's also hard to say because, well, at least for the congressional race, we're talking about Gwen Garcia alone, she is leading. So even if One Cebu wanted to make that an issue, perhaps in the gubernatorial race, it didn't come out so much, it didn't become so prominent. And the local analysts that we talked to before have said that on this issue, on the suspension of the governor, Cebu was evenly split. There were Cebuanos who thought that the suspension was proper, it was fitting for all the controversies that the suspended governor has been linked to, but there were also those who saw it as a power grab, as what the Garcias have described it, that it was a very heavy penalty for an administrative case. It was not even a graft and corruption case. If you recall, it involved the hiring of contractual employees. So some saw it that it was just right, that Governor Garcia to them deserved that kind of a punishment. It was a 6-month punishment, but some also felt that it was the administration's way of trying to consolidate their power in the run-up to the midterm elections and also 2016. So it's split. But if you're basing it, if we're talking about the gubernatorial race alone, it doesn't seem to have translated so far in the partial unofficial results because the VD has 100,000 lead so far in that race, and doesn't seem to have been an issue. But then again, there is that whole debate about whether you look at Pablo John Garcia as an individual, as himself, as a two-term congressman, or if you look at him as the brother of the suspended governor. So it would really depend. You know, this is a battle of perception, how voters would see him. If they see him as someone who performed in Congress, who was able to make his own name, was able to stand on his own accomplishments. And if they were impressed by that, then they would have voted for him. But if they also saw him as merely the brother, as someone who is part of the Garcia dynasty that has ruled Cebu for 18 years. So it's all a matter of perception, but if you look at the results, well, at least that issue of the suspension doesn't seem to have translated. Maria?
Interesting. I know that you've had very little sleep and we're only at 53% of the count of the unofficial results. What is, so far, the most memorable moment of covering Cebu for you?
Well, the most memorable, well, of course, it's still the suspension of the suspended governor. We were in the same place, the Cebu capital. That time, there was so much talk, there was so much rumor that she was going to be forced out of the capital, because we recall she really stood her ground, that she really stayed here in the capital for 1 month. And there was that night, those nights in December, there were so many rumors that the police were coming, they were going to drag her out of the capital. And so her family, her supporters stayed here, and of course, covering them, we also stayed here overnight because it was said that she was going to be dragged out of the capital, but that didn't happen. So that was memorable in the sense that, you know, for Cebuanos, it was a first. Local reporters were saying it was a first that we have a governor who was suspended. And there was that whole controversy, if you recall, if the penalty was commensurate to the offense of suspended Governor Glenda Gloria, and it was political drama unfolding. Really, we saw the brother that early, Pablo John Garcia, emerged to defend his sister amid all the controversies. We also saw their allies, their mayors, the one Cebu mayors, came here to support and to meet with Governor Glenda Gloria. So that was memorable in the sense that it set the tone for this election. It showed also the lines, the drawing of the lines between the Liberal Party and the One Cebu, the Una ally, the suspended governor. If you also recall, the Una's top leaders, Vice President Binay, former President Estrada, and Senate President Juan Ponce Enrile, flew in to express their support for Governor Glenda Gloria that time. So that was very dramatic. It was a 1-month standoff, but it eventually ended when she was padlocked out of the capital. So it was memorable because it's politically significant, but it was also illegal. It's actually a continuing legal battle also, because if we recall, she also questioned that before the Court of Appeals. But many analysts say that the ultimate verdict of that suspension of the President Pino's decision to suspend her is this election, whether or not her brother will win. So we'll see ultimately with the final results how Cebuanos stand on that issue. Maria?
Fascinating. Great. That's Ayee Macaraig reporting live from Cebu. We'll keep coming back to you. Thank you, Ayee. Now, let's take a look at the political landscape in Pangasinan, where the president's candidate is not doing very well. Angela Casauay reports.
In Pangasinan, the third vote-richest province in the Philippines, the rivalry is not between the administration and the so-called opposition. It is between the Liberal Party and the Nationalist People's Coalition, both allies in the Team PNoy senatorial slate. LP gubernatorial bet Hernani Braganza is going head-to-head against incumbent Governor Amado Espino Jr. of the NPC. He enjoys the backing of LP's top endorser, President Aquino. Not only that, a former president raises his hand, his uncle, Fidel V. Ramos. Yet Braganza is waging a battle against all odds. COMELEC records show LP only has 29 mayoral candidates among 48 municipalities, compared to 43 mayoral bets on the NPC side. It gets worse. In April, news broke that 17 LP mayors reportedly defected to Espino with the backing of Braganza's own cousin, re-electionist board member Ranjit Shahani. But Braganza remains confident the Liberal Party can work its magic for him.
When PNoy ran for president, we were with the minority. Wala nga halos kaming congressman sa mayor. And yet he won as president. The same will happen in the province of Pangasinan.
As Braganza scours Pangasinan barangay by barangay, his rival Espino is taking a relaxed approach.
Ako nga, hindi na ako nangangampanya, yung totoo lang. Even the last time, hindi man ako nag-rally, yung kalaban ko nun, siguro pero nagbayani. Nakibang yun. Nagsalita lang ako 2 beses doon sa Alumino City. Doon lang, dahil tinutulungan ko yung kalaban niya dahil naawa na.
The race between Braganza and Espino has been brought to national attention after a barrage of cases were filed against Espino before the Ombudsman and the Department of Justice, even before the official election period started.
Dito sa amin, kung baga sa amin itong boxing, gustong maging boxingero. Pari kung baga boxingero kami, para kami maglalaban sana sa ring. Pero ang gusto, hindi man siya umaakyat sa ring, ako manakdown na ako.
The first case, wetting. In November, Interior and Local Government Secretary and Liberal Party President Mar Rojas himself presented Bugalion Mayor Rodrigo Orduña of the Liberal Party, who claimed that Espino received up to 900 million in wetting money. The case is still with the Ombudsman. Then came the murder charges. In February, the National Bureau of Investigation charged Espino and Pangasinan 1st District Representative Jesus Boying Celeste for instigating and plotting the murder of Infanta Mayor Roberto Martinez. Espino, a former police officer, denies all the allegations.
I have been protecting my honor ever since. Sabi ko nga, lahat ng hinawakan ko, position, no, I've excelled in everything that I do. Sa modesty aside, kagaya nito sa governorship na to, nakita mo lang po sabihin nila, ako lang daw nagagawa ng ganito. Pinakamaganda rin ng kapitolyo, kapital namin, yung mga ospital namin, mga ganun. So, ang sabi ko, bakit naman ako? Yung na lang ang nahalabi sa akin, yung pangalan ko, yung honor.
Braganza insists he is not behind the charges and stresses it is the DILG and the NBI which filed the cases. Critics say the timing of the cases is suspect.
Ipagpalagay mo na, yung timing off. But ang tanong, kung iba panahon ng eleksyon, hindi ka pwedeng huliin at you can wantonly commit crime. Diba? Tapos sweldo ka dahil kandidato ka.
Despite Espino's advantage over his political machinery, Braganza says Espino is at the losing end.
Wala namang mawala sa akin kung natalo. Di ba? Kung nakulong si Governor Espino, hindi niya matitikman yung mga kayamanan ni nako niya, di ba?
If all else fails for Braganza, there is still 2016, when LP standard bearer President Aquino vacates his seat. It will be, after all, Espino's last term should he win May 13. Angela Casauay, Rappler.
Well, joining us now live from Pangasinan is Carmela Fonbuena. She's been there for the last 48 hours or so. Carmela, where are you and what's happening?
Hi, Maria. Good morning. I'm here at the capital of Pangasinan, where the canvassing center for the gubernatorial race is located. And we hear employees here congratulating each other already. But it's not clear, but there seems to be a festive mood here. And we are talking to the camp of re-electionist Governor Amado Espino Jr. And they tell me, we're trying to get updates, and they tell me that they are resting. But of course, we don't have the results yet. Based on the Rappler mirror server, we only have 50%. And then here at the canvassing center, we only have 20 towns and 1 city out of 44 towns and 4 cities transmitting results. We haven't, they've not given us updates if the quick count of the NPC is already finished. But we have higher numbers in the Rappler mirror server than the canvassing center here because they need to complete all the municipalities before it is transmitted here. So based on the Rappler mirror server, we have 50% already in, and Governor Espino is leading by 300,000 over the administration candidate Nani Braganza. But there are about 600,000 votes that have yet to be transmitted. So, well, people can make assumptions, but COMELEC Provincial Election Supervisor Marino Salas says they can proclaim when it is mathematically improbable for the candidate who is behind to catch up with the leading candidate. So the COMELEC here doesn't expect to get the results of all 44 towns and 4 cities today. So I think we will see the results earlier in the mirror server than here at the canvassing center. Rhea?
Thanks, Carmela. What we're actually going to do is explain a little bit more of how we're getting the results faster than the actual official count. But Carmela, you've been there. Is this a surprise that Espino is doing that much better in these unofficial count?
Maria, everybody's expected Governor Espino to get re-elected, considering he is on his third term. And usually in local politics, you don't challenge a candidate seeking for a third term because it means he has already been in power for 6 years and he has an inherent advantage. And also Pangasinan is an NPC territory, but I think what makes it what made it really interesting for everyone is how the administration challenged the incumbent governor here. And in the beginning, we've seen a lot of cases filed. We've seen, well, at least 2 cases filed against the incumbent governor. And there's a perception here among the allies of the governor that Malacanang, or some people say Secretary Mar Rojas as the ILG secretary, is using his power to favor the Liberal Party candidate here. Of course, Secretary Rojas is on leave as president of Liberal Party, and for local politicians, it's hard to distinguish that. So that's what made this race here interesting. Although we know that the NPC machinery is well entrenched, it's because of the developments that happened late last year.
Doesn't it also show something though about Team PNoy, that it actually had the audacity to think that it could unseat a machinery?
Right. That is what is so interesting. And we're hearing from the Espino camp, and they are complaining about what they call militarization of Pangasinan. Well, Pangasinan has been declared a hotspot, and we see extra security forces here, and some people, even the local media here, that's what they're asking politicians here, both Governor Espino and Alaminos Mayor Nani Braganza. What do they think about the increased presence of security presence here? So it shows you that this is something that everybody here is interested in. Why do we need all these soldiers? But according to Alaminos City Mayor Nani Braganza, of course we've heard about reports of election violence here, and that's what they're trying to address.
Interesting. What about the campaigns themselves? How were they run? I mean, was it really just machinery versus the challenge? Is there anything interesting or new about the way campaigns were run in Pangasinan?
Being here for 3 days in Sunday, you can see that when we say NPC is a well-entrenched political party here, you can see it. For example, we see that the Liberal Party and all the other parties, they have poll watchers. But we can see that the poll watchers of NPC, they're more systematic in a way that, for example, they have forms given to them by coordinators that they will have to get the BEIs of each precinct to sign. So this is the basis of their quick count. These are signed copies of the election returns. So they were able to do their quick count. The other political parties don't have that. They don't have that paper that the BEI will sign, because for the NPC here, if there will be a problem, that could be a basis for protest. And you see that that shows you that political parties are important in the local level because that means machinery. But in terms of campaigning, Governor Espino said he wasn't really he didn't campaign until 1 month before the election. But of course, there's the advantage if you are the incumbent. You always have your presence around the province.
Interesting. Okay, sorry, Carmela, we're going to keep coming back to you to see the way this unfolds, although it's looking like with 52% in, at least the lead is quite large. Carmela Fonbuena, thank you so much, reporting live from Pangasinan. This time around, let's go look another pass at the results because new numbers have come in, new transmissions of the PCOS machines. We go back to Josh Villanueva and his magic screen.
We do have new results, Maria, as of 8:04. Nothing much has changed, but let me go over the results for you. Several interesting points here. Grace Poe still in the lead with 14,377,000. She leads number 2, Lauren Legarda, by 1.2 million already. But what's interesting, we're seeing that Cheese has been in number 3 since we started, but Alan Peter Cayetano is actually gaining some ground. The difference between both candidates for 3 and 4 is only 464 votes.
Wow.
Meanwhile, so let me just read through the top 12. So we have Grace Poe, Lauren Legarda, Cheese Escudero, Alan Cayetano, Nancy Binay, Sunny Angara, Bam Aquino, Coco Pimentel, Sunny Trillanes, Cynthia Villar, JV Ejercito, and at number 12, Gringo Honasan. We have been tracking the distance between Dick Gordon, who's at number 13, and Honasan. Right now, it's at 387,000. That's quite large compared to what it was last night, which was about just over 100,000. So those are the results as of 8:04 a.m., Maria.
How many out of how many?
Right now we're at 52.78. Not much has been added earlier. The last time we took a look, it was at 52% as well.
It's interesting, if you can keep that up, let's compare it with the latest Pulse Asia survey from April 20 to 22. In that one, Lauren Legarda was number 1, tied at number 1 with Cheese Escudero. You had Grace Poe, Alan Peter Cayetano is number 4, Cynthia Villar at 5th, Sunny Trillanes 6th, Bam Aquino, JV Ejercito, Nancy Binay, Coco Pimentel, Sunny Angara, Mig Subiri, Gringo Anasan, Jack Enrile, Risa Ontiveros, and June Magsaysay. They just edged in. But if you compare that to these results now, if you look there at what Josh is looking at,
it's pretty much the same. The only one, Gringo Honasan, was down and Mig Zubiri was up based on that list. So Gringo Honasan is up on this list.
And again, what's interesting is how much further Grace Poe, something that no one
This
really...
is something that we really didn't expect to happen. And right now, she's really in control of that lead.
And even how well Alan Peter Cayetano is doing, right?
Right.
That's let's look at the SWS, and this was the most latest survey right before the polls. If you look, it's on the screen in front of you. The SWS survey was a little different from Pulse Asia, and people pointed this out while the campaigns were going on. Why were they different? We're going to get Pulse Asia's Ana Tabunda here later on to talk to us about the differences in the survey. But here you see Lauren Legarda's first, Alan Peter Cayetano second, Nancy Binay, Cheese Escudero, Grace Poe, JV Ejercito, Cynthia Villar, Coco Pimentel, Bam Aquino, Sunny Angara, Sunny Trillanes, Gringo Anasan, Jack Enrile. And again, you see June Magsaysay and Migs Zubiri. This one is significantly...
This is the same. The ranking of the top 12 is the same, and in that list you'll notice that Alan Cayetano is higher up on that list ahead of Cheese Escudero. Maybe that will happen as more results come in, Maria. But that was completely the same. Their top 12 is pretty much what we're seeing here today.
The top 12 of SWS.
Of SWS.
Okay. All right. Let us go take a look. We're going to go back to Josh to take a look at social media. How are they reacting? I'm going to remind you again, if you look at the results that Josh was just showing you, it's on the front page of Rappler. There's a new nav bar that we've included. You can see there right off the top how much has been transmitted. 53% of the election returns. You've got all results. This is the index page. When you click that, it'll bring you to the breakdown of, and you can see the way the 18,000 posts, who's winning where. The Senate race, this is the position that Josh was showing us. This is the visualization. The party list race, we'll go to this a little bit later, and the PCOS status, we'll also go to that after Josh talks to us about social media. What's going on social media?
Well, if there is a hashtag that you need to monitor today, it's hashtag PHvote results. If you feel something, if you feel strongly about the results, if you don't like what you're seeing, or if you do, let us know. We'd love to join we'd love that you join our discussion. We're tracking all of that. Let me show you how our tool TweetDeck looks like. We're tracking all your discussions here. I've picked out some significant tweets. Let me read through some of them, Maria. This one by Janix Regalo. And I know you guys talked about this last night. He's getting excited about 2016. He says by that time, most of the active social media minors right now will be voting then. So he's interested to see if social media will play a significant role in the 2016 elections. Very interesting thoughts from Janix Regalo. Zach Harena, when leadership is about popularity, that's when we need to worry. Good leadership is not a popularity contest. Very interesting discussions, Maria, so early in the morning. Jarlene Erica Casili says she's pretty disappointed. Now, we've seen a lot of people on social media say that they're disappointed with the results. Jarlene is one of them, and she adds this hashtag that she created, "It's more numb" in the Philippines. You know, a lot of voters on social media are blaming voters who are not on social media. Very interesting discussion. Jan Dacumos, I think it's more of a lesson for us progressives. Organize and then educate. We can't expect much from an apolitical population. They're blaming it on an apolitical population. Donna Faith Script says Grace Poe deserves to be on that senatorial seat, though she needs a lot to prove. Anyway, all hands on yeah. So those are some of the tweets that we've picked up so far. We will track your discussions again. The hashtag to use is hashtag PHvote results. And don't forget, at 10 a.m., we are also putting together, our social media team is putting together a Google Hangout. It starts at 10 a.m. with social media producer Giles Sulit. If you haven't already, sign up to join the discussion. All you need is a computer, a good internet connection, a microphone, and of course, a webcam. Maria?
Can we take a look at the party list race? There's several stories on Rappler. Our social media team will share it with you now. There's several stories on the party list race, why it's important, who is going to be winning. You're basically going to have, the party list should be 20% of the total seats in Congress. In this Congress, there are 58 party list members. How do you get in? You have to get 2% of the total vote. So Josh, what do we have? And show us how we decided to organize this. You know, this is one of the hardest graphics put together by our data visualization team and our creatives, because it's really hard. There were 121 party list groups, and you needed to get it all in one visualization.
Each of those party list groups has a little circle. As you can see, it's represented in this chart here. So these small circles don't have as many votes yet. We're actually categorizing them into 3 colors. The first is those with more than 4% of the total votes cast. That will come out in orange. Unfortunately, we don't have any of those at the moment. Then you have those in red, which means they have already acquired 2% of total votes cast. And then you have the blue-gray, which is less than 2%. And right now, those with 2%, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 party list groups, it's still shuffling a bit. So this is not the result. Last night we saw about 7 or 8 of them with 2%. So as more votes are cast, are tabulated, this will change. But this means that at the moment they have they're secured of at least 1 seat in Congress. The groups are Buhay, A Teacher, Bayan Muna, One Care, Akbayan, and Ako Bicol. And if you want to find out who, if ever, will fill up those seats, you will have to hover over each party list group. Let me scroll down a bit and move my mouse. So for example, if Buhay does get one seat, at least one seat, then the son of Michael Velarde Jr. Will get one of those seats as a member of the Buhay party list group.
Interesting. Okay, thank you so much, Josh. We'll keep coming back. Now, you just need to remember you can find the results. That's ongoing now, 53%. If you look at the front page right now, let me show you the index page where you can find everything. Here you go. We've got 53% of election returns transmitted. This is your nav bar to be able to go through all results, and this is the all results page right now. You can actually go through, this is more of just a table, and this is your index. If you want to see senators, this will bring you to each of these positions. And as Josh pointed out, you have to know your geography a little bit to figure out which race you're in. Plus, this one is interesting, the transmission status also of all of the PCOS machines. It shows you the number of ERs that have been received and the completion status. You can see that visualized here at PCOS status. We're going to be watching closely. We're going to now take a short break and come back. When we come back, we'll be back with Anna Tabunda from Pulse Asia as our guest, and we'll continue looking at the results. It is the day after the second automated elections in the Philippines. Results are coming in. 53% are in now. This is #PHvote 2013, Rappler's continuing coverage. Stay tuned. We'll be back.
Give it to me. What's up? Bitch! What's up? Bitch!
Treats on us.
Think about it.
Here for, lay some treats on us.
Think about it.
Here for, lay some treats on us.
Think about it.